Okay, but if we had to write this in a 3,500 word essay, that was I think 2 questions and each worth 50 points on that paper. So 50 points would have been how is it generated and what would prompt you to file this report. So we don't just need an overview, and we don't want to go south. We want to get as much points as possible, because remember these papers are marked in London, and the Brits are very meticulous when it comes to these questions and giving you full points. So you have to be in line, or have sufficient, not just a bunch of fluff, to get to the word count. Okay.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Somebody was saying something. No? Okay. So for those, because I know normally we start with the readings, because that also gives persons an opportunity to, for the persons who join late, but it's being recorded. So if you join late and you would have missed the first half of the lecture, then you can just go and listen to the recording, because we're going to do the newspaper and the 5% at the end. Okay, so chapter 8 talks about suspicious transaction reports. And it starts off by describing the MLRO and what the duties are. So just before we talk about the MLRO, I'm going to share the screen and see if where we. I pulled up what is required by law, but this thing is. Let me stop. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to share it again. Okay, let's see. Share. Okay, so just before we start, I'm talking about the MLRO. If we look at the middle, can everybody see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, where it says eligibility, this is the financial intelligence unit page. And of course, we should know by now that when we do file suspicious transaction reports, we file it into the financial intelligence unit. So in the past, we used to send an email. Now they have a very savvy site called Case Connect, where they can properly track all suspicious transaction reports that they receive. Now, of course, we should be familiar with the Eggman group by now. We know that's going to be the mandatory question on the exam. The Eggman group, of course, is a group of financial intelligence units around the world that come together and collaborate and share information. And this is how we would have gotten these reports at the back of our book. So this is the site for the Bahamas. And if you look at eligibility, it says the general public, both individuals and businesses, regardless of sector, are free to make reports whenever they observe questionable activity. These reports may be made at any time during regular business hours. Okay, so I just want to make it clear that the law does state that anybody can file a suspicious transaction report. However, while the law just say that, each organization has their internal AML policy and procedure. They have a compliance department and they have an MLRO in place. And so primarily, most businesses state that if you do see something suspicious or know of a suspicious activity or transaction, they normally have an internal form that you are to fill out and submit that to your MLRO or submit it to your manager and then the MLRO. That's primarily how it works. Now, the MLRO, of course, is going to be privy to more information than the frontline staff or anybody who is outside of compliance. And if your organization has it set up that way, please follow, the policy and procedure of your company. Some persons in the past have said, well, the law says I can file this suspicious transaction report, so I'm going to do this myself, or my I don't feel that my company is going to file this suspicious transaction because this is a high net worth client, or this is a family member, or whatever reason. If you feel that way, then I recommend that you just resign, because if you don't follow your internal policy, you could be fired. Not only that, once the MLRO would have gotten the internal form that there's suspicious activity or suspicious transaction, they then have to go out and do research, do an investigation, and then fill out the form. And later on, we're going to look at the suspicious transaction form. Again, like I said, they privy to more information than persons on the front line. So they may have a valid reason why they may not want to report this person. I've always been taught, I started off as a teller and I ended up as the manager of business support at the trust company. I was always taught, once you would have had an issue, suspicious transaction report or what have you, then you are to send it to your manager and leave it until they come and ask you questions. If they don't ask you questions, you don't worry about it. It's no longer your issue. So I would just advise, persons to follow that. If you pass it on to your manager or your MLRO and they don't do anything with it, then you perhaps need to look within, is this the company that I want to be working for? Okay, so MLROs have that responsibility to go out and investigate, find out exactly if it was indeed suspicious, if it was indeed outside of the person's profile, if it was money laundering, proliferation, or terrorist financing, and then they use their experience and their judgment, and then they decide whether or not that transaction, suspicious transaction, is going to be filed. Once that report is filed, I was told that there are police officers stationed at the financial intelligence unit. They do an investigation, and then if somebody has to be prosecuted, then they turn that information over to the police, and then the police would arrest and what have you. Now, before, if you were arrested for financial crime, you used to go down to a central police station and sometimes get lost among the people who are going to go to court on a Monday morning. However, they have now created, since these cases are more common these days, they have now created a cell, a special cell. It's right up there by Bethel's funeral home, a special cell for the financial intelligence unit, where they will place any persons, related to financial crime. And so that's a special holding cell just for us to go in.
No, ma'am, Miss Bullet.
So we don't get mixed up with the hardened criminals.
Okay? Why are you trying to cause me going now?
No, I just letting you all know. I just letting you all know. Okay, so we all know the money laundering reporting. Sorry, you said something?
No, ma'am.
No? Okay, so we know the MLRO, it's a regulated function. And what does that mean? A regulated function means that it has to be approved by the regulator. So an organization can, of course, put the ad in the paper or on LinkedIn, wherever, a job description, persons may apply, and they temporarily hire you until they get approval from the regulator. So it just depends on, if you're a gaming house, the gaming board will approve it. If you're a bank, of course, central bank, securities business, securities commission, and then compliance commission for the accountants, lawyers, and real estate, right? And so in order to be considered, I pulled up the fitness and propriety guideline. This is from Central Bank. They determined the fit and proper guidelines. This is what you follow if you want to be hired as an MLRO. And if we look through it, just so you would be familiar, again, because of course we are the future leaders and we are going to be applying one day to hold this position as MLRO. So you see that it says it's approval for regulated function, and there are 3 regulated functions. It's senior official 1, senior official 2, And then the MLRO, normally the CEO or a vice president, and then the MLRO. And it says, how do we assess this? Our central bank considers a number of factors: honesty and integrity and reputation, competence and capability, financial soundness, previous disciplinary record, general compliance history, and what have you. So they do a full out background check. And again, I think I had mentioned in the first or section lecture, um, with central bank and the Securities Commission, you send your CV, and then there are a number of deliverables. I'm just going to go down to the appendix to show you what they expect in your CV and the other deliverables. So previous management level or equivalent experience in the range of activities that may be conducted by the licensee, special language skills if appropriate, knowledge of Bahamian laws, um, 2 character references, 1 financial reference. And when I had sent my financial reference, of course, Miss Bullet wanted to send me, she had a little bit of change, but then they said, no, we need it for at least 3 years. So I had to go and get another one. Copy of passport, recent network statement certified by a public accountant. No, I didn't need to do that because I wasn't holding voting control. And then they have a confidential statement again, where they ask you a series of questions. Have you ever been charged? Have anybody you have ever worked with been charged? And so on. It's about 3 pages, a police certificate, and then a board resolution saying that they chose you as the MLRO, and a detailed job description, a valid work permit if you're not Bahamian. And then the organizational chart. And again, I had an experience where my organizational chart had a dotted line to the CEO, and it was sent back, and they were told to remove that dotted line, and I should only be reporting directly to the board. And so they had to move that dotted line before I was approved. Um, Another instance is with my job description. They had said they wanted me to do risk as well as compliance. And again, that was sent back and said no, and the Securities Commission actually has in their policy, they have an MLRO policy where they state that the MLRO can hold no other title. Because a lot of institutions, they try to make you risk, compliance, legal, corporate, they put all sorts of hats on you. And I think I gave you all the story where we had went into audit one of these Fortune 500 banks out of Canada, and before we started the audit, we had about 25 deliverables, and we were told to go to one person for the 25 different things that we needed for the audit. And so we asked, is this person just the coordinator? Did they go around and collect these items before we came? And they said no. That person carries out all those jobs. And so we stopped the audit, and we made them, we said this desk has to be regularized. Too many hats, no proper oversight. This person is overwhelmed. And so we stopped the audit. We gave them a week to find, they had to hire 3 additional persons. And that person had been in that position like for 4 or 5 years, carrying out all those functions. So of course, you know how that audit ended up. Okay, so you want to make sure that your function is not on your job description. And the Securities Commission, they do a good job where they do send the job description back and say, hey, this person will be overwhelmed if you give them all these tasks. And again, it depends on the metrics of your business, how many clients you have and how many officers you have, working with those clients. Okay, so is all of this clear so far? Y'all are very quiet. Sometimes I feel like I talking to myself.
Yes, it's
Anybody?
clear.
Understandable.
We hear you. We hear you, Miss Bullet.
Okay, good.
Yes, I understand.
Okay, good. So no questions so far.
No.
Okay, so good.
No,
So we understand the regulated function. We understand that there's an internal policy. On the other side of the internal policy that says you have to, send this information to your MLRO. We've had incidences, there's also a failing to disclose and then a tipping off. We should all be familiar with that by now, those two laws in poker. And they are now being enforced because prior to 218, we've had staff members that said, it's not my job, it's above my pay level, or I'm afraid, or these people in here are not confidential. They're gonna say, that Miss Bullet gave this information or this, and so I'm afraid, and so I'm not going to disclose. And so it was recommended to many institutions that in your onboarding package for your new staff, or in your review or your update for your package for your staff, you let them know immediately that if they want a job in the financial services sector, they are required to disclose should they find any suspicious activity going on. Okay, so person, please don't take the job if I know there's a problem with our judicial system. I know there is no protection, witness protection or proper witness protection, but I'm certain that your organization will try to protect you as much as possible. We had an incident where the French government was suing us, and our compliance officer was traveling to France to, give testimony. And 2 days before, it had been the French bombings. And so, of course, the MLRO at that time said, no, I'm not going to go. I'm not going back, but they had accepted because of the, the danger of what was going on in the country at the time. And the court date was like, say, 2 weeks later, they allowed, a video recording or a video call to the court. So the person didn't have to go back to France. And it was because France was on, that heightened alert because of the terrorist attack. So, like I said, I'm certain that the organization will do its best to, to protect you, but you cannot fail to disclose. Okay. So once this information would have been given to the MLRO is going to, again, like I say, do a review, complete a review, and complete a suspicious transaction report and send it out to the FIU, right? And then the FIU is going to do an investigation. And so, again, I'd like somebody to answer, how is a suspicious transaction generated? Like, how do we know that this is suspicious? Anybody?
The transaction falls out of line with the person's normal activity.
Yeah.
Okay, correct. So of course, we know that we saw last week when persons open up an account, they fill out forms, and from the forms and the information that we gather, they generate a profile. Once they generate the profile, they also bring in source of funds and other information that we corroborate, and we ensure that it makes sense. They bring in financials. We make sure that it's a profitable business. They bring in their pay stub. We make sure that they say they are going to deposit $5,000 a month. They actually get paid that, or they have rent or something to corroborate, and it can afford making this $5,000 a month. Okay. And so once that would have been checked, when they deposit $10,000, then of course we want to find out exactly what happened and where this, excessive amount has come from. Okay, so is it every single time that somebody goes out of their profile, something is wrong or it's suspicious?
No.
I would think that.
Okay.
you
No. Okay,
probably
so
update the
It might
profile.
accompany other things like doing business with jurisdictions that are high risk.
okay, you said it might, say that again, it may have come from.
And I said the transaction may have happened from a high risk jurisdiction, along with doing business outside of their customer profile, I guess.
Okay, and so of course that may give us a trigger. Okay, yes, very good. And what do we do when a transaction happens that is outside of somebody's profile?
Customer due diligence.
Correct. And so give me an
You
example.
ask for source of funds.
You'd
Very
ask for a source of funds and then you would complete your UTR,
okay. Don't you? What is a UTR?
unusual transaction report.
Correct, correct. And so we have a control in place that, yes, sometimes we may get a trigger because it's from a high risk jurisdiction or outside of the normal profile that the person says, I'm going to deposit twice a month and it's going to be 2,000 and that's within my salary. They may bring, like I said, 10,000 and we get these triggers. And so once we get this trigger, we are to do an investigation. And like Sierra said, there's something called a UTR, an unusual transaction form that we fill out. We contact the customer and we said, can you disclose the source of funds? Okay. And remember, we had the example with Brent Simonet where he had inherited the money from his mother, the 100 million. They called him in and he was able to bring the will. And so they were able to disclose the source of funds, and so they accepted it. Correct? So there are legitimate things that happen outside of your profile. When it happens, our responsibility is to go out and find out exactly what happened. How often is it going to happen? And we may need to, adjust the profile, or it may just be a one-off transaction. And so we do have forms that they fill out, and we do ask for substantiation, a copy of the will, a copy of the land papers, or what have you, and we put all of that on file. Okay. So hi,
I have a question.
go ahead.
I know, like filling out oh gee, my mind gone blank just then. Filling out a source of funds. Would you still have to fill out a unusual transaction report if they give you where the source is coming from?
Well, it depends on your organization. Again, at the end of the month, will you remember that Ms. Bullard got this from, if you serving like 800 persons. So they normally ask you to put something on file.
Right. That's what I
Right.
mean. Like when you fill out the source of funds, you normally like take a copy of, let's just say somebody sold a car. They put a copy of the bill of sale.
Right.
So I was just asking, would you still have to put?
Well, see, it just depends on your controls within your organization. Some persons are probably on increased controls because they had some deficiencies in the past, or some companies are more stringent. Like I always say that the Canadians are way more stringent than the Swiss. So when I was at Royal Bank, of course, we had to do the substantiation and the UTR and ensure that compliance sign off on that, and then make sure that was put on the file.
Okay.
Yeah, so it just depends on your institution and their procedure or their policy. But you do need to be able to go back in 3 or 4 months, or when the review, suppose this person is a low risk client, and in 3 years you're going to do this review. So 3 years before, you're going to say, Ms. Bullet deposit $10,000, what this was for. Nobody could be around to remember, right?
Right.
Right. So yeah. Okay, so good. So we understand that sometimes persons do go out of their profile. Okay, and we understand the MLRO. So then if we do have an instance where, remember, I told you all about my car wash guy who said I was going to do $50 a week, and then he bring in this $10,000. So as the MLRO, there is the suspicious transaction form. And let me just try and share that after we would have done our due diligence and saw that for sure this is something that needs to be reported. Then we go and fill out our suspicious transaction form. So each organization should have a copy, a reduced, this is 6 pages. Let me try and share the screen. And this can be found right on the internet on the FIU website. or right where I had pulled it up for the Bahamas. Let me go back so you can see. I'm not familiar with this computer, so it's giving me a little hard time today. So let me stop sharing. Okay, stop sharing, and then we want to go here. Okay. Okay, so again, the financial intelligence unit site, and you see right here, suspicious transaction form, and then we just click on that, and this is this suspicious transaction report. So of course, we perhaps have a reduced, we have a one page in our institution where we just give an overview and as much detail as possible to assist the MLRO to fill this out. So of course, it says, disclose an institution. What type of disclosure is it? It's the proceeds of crime. Is it drug trafficking? Is it terrorism, finance, or is it other? And then the name of the disclosing institution, the person handling it. Now, I was at a BACO meeting where persons had said their names, they were concerned about the protection of their names being, in court cases. And when they persons, they go and apply for jobs, and persons Google them, it comes up that they are attached to a case, and then the court docket is about 100 pages, and so institutions are not going to read that. And so there is a concern in the industry to ensure that if the money laundering reporting officer does put their name that it's protected. And so there isn't going to be, I think the the Supreme Court is online, so they're gonna blank that out and perhaps put the institution's name or just the MLRO and keep that as confidential as possible, so there's no backlash. Because I don't know if I mentioned this in detail. Of course, I started to say that the gaming board, they will approve you. Their application is 66 pages that you have to fill out, and they ask you all the way if you've been divorced and who you was married to and your children, and they want your children's birth certificate, and that's how detailed they are. Then of course, they go to your neighbors and they question your neighbors, and I think I mentioned that in earlier classes. So all of that is under the MLRO and the background check that they carry out on you to approve you as the MLRO. Okay, and then email address and what have you. And so they ask you, who are you reporting? Is it an individual or is it a company? And full name of the individual, date and place of birth, occupation, and full address. Now, one day on my Facebook, because I subscribe to all the countries newspapers that we deal with, and we had a person from Brazil, and I don't know if you all deal with, most of y'all who work in the offshore jurisdiction, y'all know that everybody named De Silva and they this and with Mario and Felipe. Jose is a very common name, and so let's just say I had a Jose De Silva, and I also had a Jose De Silva. I went to our system. I said, okay, this is familiar. This person is charged with money laundering in Brazil. Do we have him on our books? And of course, Jose De Silva was on our books. However, in the newspaper, there was no date of birth. So I could not verify if this was the Jose De Silva that we had on our books. So how do I fix that? How do I find out the person that was charged in Brazil? How do I find out what his date of birth was to ensure that it was not the same person that we had on our books? Does anybody know?
Sanction screening.
Okay, but to find somebody's date of birth?
You can run maybe World Check, or I think it was called Interpol, run his name in that.
Correct. So I did that, and it had no date of birth for the person that was arrested. He was there, however, there was no date of birth. So what group can I use?
Ask the police, Miss Bullet.
Right, right, correct, the FIU, because remember, the Eggman group is the group of FIUs around the world that share information. So of course I called them on the phone. I said, how do I handle it? And they asked me to fill out the same portion right here about individual. And then they put, please, on the essay page, they asked me just to put, please confirm we do have somebody on our books with this date of birth. And before I report the person on our books, could they check for me the person who was arrested in Brazil? And this is what I filled out. And then they sent me back the information with the date of birth and a copy of the passport, and it was not our client. Okay, so just to let you know that sometimes you won't have all the information off the internet or all the information off WorldCheck. WorldCheck is doing a better job now by putting in date of births and addresses and relationships in terms of like mother, father, or whomever. So it will help you identify the person properly, because of course you have all the information on your client on file. However, these persons get arrested all around the world. And so sometimes there isn't sufficient information for you to make a match. So in your investigation, sometimes you do have to reach out to the FIU and get additional information and then make your report. Okay, just so you would know. So the company, again, the type of business and identification documents. And again, a lot of us have a problem with very deficient accounts where we don't have the memo in arts and the certificate of incorporation. Of course, the good standing expires every year. We didn't get a new good standing, or passport copies expire and we didn't update it. And so that's very important because they want you to send that information along with this STR. So you want to ensure that you have all these information. And we have had to wait, for updated information to come in. But a lot of times persons know that they've already been charged, and they try and withdraw the money, and if you go and check the account, you'll see that the money has been leaving the bank unbeknown to you, because this person would have been locked up or in jail for a while, and they probably have a power of attorney or an asset manager who was allowed to withdraw from their account. So you see the withdrawals coming out the bank unbeknown to you, because they stay within the profile. So normally, you wouldn't have known. So you want to ensure that this is the importance of having updated documents. Okay. And so sometimes it may be a trust or a company. You want to know who the beneficial owners are, because they could have a POA, a power of attorney signing, or an asset manager signing. So this is the section if there's a beneficial owner. Any other intermediaries or authorized signatories or what have you, they want all that information. Account activity, you see date open, date closed, if applicable, the total amount of assets held, the jurisdiction where it's held, the account, other accounts held by the parties involved, amount, debit or credit, or the reason for suspicion, and the currency, the date, the source. And these lines here this is why we want you to practice writing those essays, because this is where you actually detail, and it's like writing a police report, exactly what occurred and why this is outside the profile and why it's deemed suspicious. And then it says submitted by the MLRO, position held, signature, and then they want statistical information. And one time I sent it, I didn't fill this out, and they sent it right back to me, and they said, could you please fill out the statistical information for us, where you, they want you to put whether you're a bank or real estate company or credit union, what have you, the customer transaction type, criminality suspected, and then the grounds for disclosure. One time we had negative media out of Malaysia. So again, we had to take negative media, and then they asked us for a copy, send us a copy of the report of the negative media. where, where you found this information on the client. Okay, and so this is the form along with the deliverables, a copy of the, once you send this, they normally send a production order right behind and asking you for account opening details, copy of passports, and copy of incorporation and what, or all other, anything that would be relevant to, this report. Okay, I thought it used to be a page 6, but I guess it's a blank page at the end. Okay, so were we familiar with this suspicious transaction report? Have any of us ever filled out one? Or do our institutions have a condensed version of this?
Yes, I've seen.
Yes, I filled out one before.
Okay. Okay, and like I said before, with these suspicious transaction reports, normally when we go to the seminars and stuff, we have the FIU stating that, not enough reports are being filed. And my response is, over the ones I filed over the years, I wasn't getting a response on any, but like I said, of late, after the laws changed, there was a big revamp as well to the FIU where they changed the director and they hired at least 10 persons to, beef up the staff and have persons properly analyze and, get the ball rolling with, bringing these persons before the court. And so I have now been getting responses, in a very timely manner. And now that they have the Case Connect, there are, updates periodically where they say, we're still working on the investigation or what have you. And then I most recently got a report from them where they said that this person is no longer under investigation. And so you no longer need to hold those funds. We have no objection to you releasing the funds to the client. And so we were able to do that. That was the first time I had ever gotten that in my entire career. So, I was very surprised by that, but I was happy, that that's the way that ended rather than having to go to court. Okay, so primarily this is the suspicious transaction report. This is what we fill out based on these transactions or these reports. Persons are brought before the court, and we see the politicians being brought before the court for the first time. We see persons being charged not only with stealing by reason of employment, but the 21 crimes that are listed under money laundering, drug trafficking, terrorism, fraud, all of that. They also carry a money laundering charge. Okay, and so this is where it stems from. And again, outside, because in my other class, I have somebody saying that he is going to report those businesses downtown that, put that funny lotion on your hand because they don't have any Bahamian employees and they look suspicious, and he believes that, those 5 locations don't make any money, but they opening up locations. So he isn't going to report that under his institution. He is going to go online and do this suspicious transaction report as a private citizen. And that's fine. But if you work for an institution and it's the institution's client, you then go and ask, you know what your internal policy is, and you follow that. Okay, and we have had persons who say, they don't have a good compliance culture. I have been told not to report persons, and I've even been told by Geneva that, oh, we have that person's account and we have, verified them and they are legit. I said, but this person is out on bail. And so they said, okay, but we're fine with them, so you don't need to report them. And I still reported them anyway. So this is why you report to the board. So there's no influence or nobody telling you that, what you are allowed and not allowed to do. I did my investigation. The person was charged. in our internal policy, it considers that if you're charged, that's an undesirable account. You file a suspicious transaction report and you wait to see, so the person was out on bail. So I don't know how Geneva would have verified them and been fine with them, and the person was out on bail. So I just filed my suspicious transaction report to cover myself, because of course our laws are different than Switzerland's. And so I couldn't tell if, if the police came, I couldn't tell them that, well, Geneva said that they are fine and I don't have to file this report, so I'm not gonna file it. So I filed it, okay? And so any questions so far? I'll be good with the form and how to fill it out and where it's to be submitted.
Miss Bullet, it sounds like you needed to file a report on Geneva. They sound like they sound like they in on it too.
Yeah. I was very surprised, but they are very laid back and not as savvy as they purport to be. So Miss Bullet is do her own thing sometimes, because they will cause you go to jail. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good that you weren't intimidated by them.
Yeah. And they said, oh, you're already busy, you're already overwhelmed, you don't need to take time to go. I said, really? The person is under, out on bail. I think I should, and so I just filed that. Yeah. Okay, so
Miss Bullet, I have a question.
go ahead.
This is Mia. I wanted to know, so in an instance where an MLRO gets a suspicious, gets a notification or alert, but decides that the transaction can proceed and then submit, a post-transaction report, what ramifications would fall on the MLRO if it turns out after further investigations that they should have probably waited and report right away?
No, all of these, again, remember now, is a fine line between, disclosing and then tipping off. And so most of the time, these reports are post after the transaction would have taken place, after the account would have opened, or, what have you. So a lot of, with account opening, central bank and the other regulators have asked us, if we reject the client, keep that, we used to just throw the file in the shredder after a month or so, but the regulators have come and said, we want to know what type of persons are infiltrating our system. And they did ask us to, at that point, if we reject the client, because of suspicions, then file a suspicious transaction report. So of course, nobody is going to really do that. So what we do is we keep a list, and then we blacklist those persons internally, because we do find that if we deny a client, they'll go to 3 or 4 different banks, and they'll try to change up the information. But most of the time, it's post that you will file these reports. And I mean, you just don't want all the money to go out the bank. You want, if you realize that this person has been charged and this their last transaction for $1 million, then yeah, of course, you try and, hold those funds and, come up with something very savvy. The bank's policy is that we have 3 days to send this money out. On the back of the signature card, it says that. So you would have to get on the phone and call the FIU and say, hey, they're trying to take the last set of the money out of the bank. What should I do? Do we have rights to freeze this, or what do we do? Are you going to send your production order right away, or what have you?
Okay, so in essence, we'd need to get advisement either way. Okay.
Yeah, because I was at an institution that was closing, and they had 5 SDRs, and I said, hello, what do? This bank is closing down. I can't, we are trying to exit these customers. What do I do? And so they said, well, we're gonna handle them on a case-by-case basis. And they said, when are you gonna close? And I gave them the date. And at least for them, they had said, give us the account, proceed with the client, and tell us exactly which bank is going to open these accounts for them, knowing that there are production orders at the FIU. And we gave them the bank information, and trust me, they was on that bank right away, but they allowed us to close out the accounts. And they said, this is not to be changed. They said, this is going to XYZ bank. Please ensure that that money goes to XYZ bank, and this is the CEO and this is the account officer. So that's what we did. We had to send all that information to them, and they allowed us to close it out. Okay, so you can't worry about if it's post or if all the money is gone. This is why we are required to keep the records for 7 years or 5 years, correct? So how are they going to find this person or retrieve the money back? It's up to the police, not really the financial institution. We are only supposed to cooperate and give them as much information as possible. My next scenario was where somebody had been charged with tax evasion, and we did get a subpoena out of Austria, I think it was, and the Austrian government simply said that we expect to fine this person $4 to $5 million for tax evasion, and we understand that your bank is closing. However, we will try and speed up the fine, because we want this money to come directly to us. Now, we put $5 million on hold, and we allowed him to transfer out the other money. And then they sent the subpoena in, and they said his fine was $6 million. So we had to pull out, the correspondence where they said $4 to $5 million they would charge, and that's all he had on his account, $5 million. So we were able to send the government of Austria the $5 million, and then they had to run behind him to get the next million. So once you do your proper due diligence, there are going to be scenarios where the money is gone or it's post. Most of the time it will be post after the transaction is completed. That's what would have made it suspicious, because it was outside of your profile. And once you do proper due diligence and have all the, a proper audit trail on file, up-to-date documents, then you would have done your part. Okay, does that answer your question, Mia?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, great. So we have 800 clients, right? And we have 5 officers. Each officer has 125 clients. So what systems do we have? And this is a question on your classwork, but I really hope that persons go into their organizations, because if you do have to explain what the controls you have in place to protect you, because there's no way, if some of these clients are very operational, some paying salaries every week, some persons doing trade, transferring money all around the world. What systems do we have in place to assist us? Do we know? What systems checking these names every night to tell us Ms. Bullitt get arrested last night?
World Check.
Okay, good, very good. World Check and Nexus.
Google search.
Correct.
Google search.
Correct, Meryl. But is it running every night?
Far as I know.
Okay. So it's running every night, and there's a report that spits out and tells you who would have been arrested.
And then you would also get hits on the report also. So
good, very good. So we
We do
have
Microsoft.
good. So again, do we understand how it works? Is it savvy enough that Ms. Bullitt profile says that she's gonna deposit? You remember the ranges that we saw last week, 5 to 9,000, 10,000 plus. Is it savvy enough for us to say Ms. Bullitt said this account is for cryptocurrency and she is going to deposit this amount, and this is how much money we expect? Is your system savvy enough to spit out every time I go outside my profile? Or is there like a generic system that only gives you a hit if it's over 5,000 or over 15,000, like the old thresholds that used to be in place? Do we understand the difference?
okay, with that, I'm not sure, but I'll investigate that part of the transactions.
Yeah, so you want to find out, is there a blanket amount that everybody falls into one category? is there an amount specifically for high-risk transactions, or is it tailored to everybody's specific profile? So I would know for sure that Miss Bullet went outside of her profile.
Ms. Bullard, we have something where we use two systems and it coincides with each other. And so if, say for instance, you come and you open your account and you say, this is your potential activity monthly, and we're making a deposit for you and it goes over that, it literally alerts us. So we
Okay.
have something in place that actually does that.
Okay, very good. And so when it alerts us, do we, Miss Bullet went outside of her normal profile, what do we do?
Well, in the institution where I work, we get on the phone and we inquire. We ask you what this is all about. That's granted that you weren't in the actual bank doing whatever you had to do. Now, if you're actually present, then of course we'll ask you X, Y, Z. And depending on how far it is, how high it is, then, you know, of course we do the necessary forms or whatever have you, because it could be a one-off situation.
Okay, so a lot of times I'd like each of you to go to your institution and find out, because a lot of times institutions don't like to invest in these systems because most of these triggers are 95% null and void. So it's like a nuisance that you know, somebody has to be paid to go and investigate. And sometimes, like in my investigation, I didn't have a date of birth, so I had to write all the way to the FIU. You know, that's time, administration, and money to write to the FIU and wait to find out all this information. And a lot of times to really find out if this is within the person's profile, or to read a sales agreement, or to read any type of an agreement, especially when the customers are doing trade or you know, various trades. You know, that's time and administration to find out that yes, this is within the profile, or this is a legitimate agreement, sales agreement. Okay, so institutions don't like to, you know, they just see it as a waste of money. But that one time, that 5% of the time that your customers may be outside of their profile and not carrying out, you know, transactions, or they may be money laundering, um, you know, that's why you need it. So find out how it works, and find out if it's a blanket system where everybody who goes over 100,000 will get a hit, or find out if it's specific to each person. And then, Meryl, you said we call these people on the phone. Who are you calling? The client, or are you calling the account manager in the department?
If it's our branch, then we can actually do it. Our manager can do it. But if there's another branch and we have questions, then we'd have to call the account officer.
Okay, so are we keeping records of these calls, or are we making documents, some type of document audit trail? Because a lot of times these people develop patterns, and there's the only way you could look at, Miss Bullet do this before, you know, she say this one off, because of course, you know, people just make up all sorts of fictitious stories, you know. How do you
excuses?
Bogus excuses? And you know, in my audit, I've gone back and I've seen where persons, you know, have a whole entire report and they said, well, I checked the hits, but I say, but there's no record, or there's no documentation to prove that this was not an actual hit, just a signature that you checked the hits. So are we keeping proper records to prove that it's actually a null and void hit?
Now, I don't know as far as the record keeping goes.
Yeah. Okay, but
I know, like if it's something that is a one-off, or you know, if they claim it's an ASU, or there's a purchase of a vehicle or something or whatever, normally they'll bring in like an invoice or some proof or contract or something like that. Or if they're like a government contract and it's gonna be another 2-3 months later, then they'll bring something to prove that. But in terms of like record keeping elsewhere, I'm not certain of that part. Only on a branch level, I don't know.
okay, so it's very important because again, let's think about Michelle Reckley, who would have opened an account and said, you know, my government salary, which is $2,000 or $3,000, is going to come into this account, and then subsequently $1.3 million came into this account. And so do we have on record, if we were to pull her file, do we have on record substantiation each time she went outside of her profile, or be going to jail too?
Oh, gee.
No, that's what I'm saying. How can we prove that we would have called her on this day and she would have said, and people, I have a contract or what have you, or I have a sales agreement, and people actually do. And sometimes, like I say, the sales agreement looks legitimate. And then sometimes if you pay, close attention, it don't even make no sense. Because the other day somebody said, I want to buy a piece of property. And I said, okay, send the sales agreement. They said, this is going to be outside of the person's profile. I want to purchase a piece of property. I said, send the sales agreement. They sent me a sales agreement to buy shares.
Everything cool.
It was 45 pages. And of course, when I look at that, I throw that on the side and say, when I have time to read this. And then, of course, what has happened, the salesperson is stand over you and say, oh, this is urgent. This has to go today. If this doesn't go, they're going to lose so much $1 million. It's going to be your fault. Right? That's what happens. Okay,
It
so
does.
just go ahead. You just want to be careful of that. Okay? And then you want to ensure that if you have to show up to court, there's proper substantiation on file. There is documentation where you can prove to the court that every time she went out of her profile, here is the call, here is the proof, here is, now it's all fictitious, but it looked legitimate. And so therefore I should not be charged. Okay, so gone are the days where we could just say, oh, we had a conversation, or I follow the policy. No, there has to be proof, and all of this has to be kept for 5 to 7 years after the account closes. Because you have to now prove that you carried out your function. Okay, so it's very important to find out what systems you have in place for, the triggers and the warnings, and if persons are outside of their profile, how it works. Because many times there's a manual part that persons have to do and they don't even know. So that means it's not even being done. And there's no way when we have 800-900 clients that we could track every transaction, or, I know for high risk accounts, they normally ask compliance to sign off on the high risk ones. And that's where compliance will do a check and ensure that it's within the profile, and it has, they have the authority to send out this transaction. Okay, there is, yes.
This is Nikisha. I've actually seen it the other way. So at my previous employer, I was an audit as well. And they had the system, but the thresholds were built so low, or the triggers were built so low, that people started ignoring the trigger. So the page, because the reports ended up being hundreds of pages, they weren't really even paying attention to the hits when they were generated. So that was causing another issue because the thresholds weren't set properly.
Correct. And this is why I'm saying, go and see if it makes sense. See if it makes sense, and check the thresholds and see if it's tailored to the customer. A lot of times there's just a blanket threshold. So will you really know, if this person is staying within their profile? Edison Sumner, he is banned from the Securities Commission for 10 years and his CEO is banned for life. And it was the same thing. Whereas, let's just say into the Royal Bank, they were sending these transactions. This account was open for cryptocurrency. That person who is the account manager would have been receiving transactions, or the signature match. Here, that's Mr. Sumner's signature, put it through. But guess what they asked him to buy? A BMW, a Rolex watch, pay for tickets for me and my family to go to Orlando. So are you liable as that account officer for allowing those transactions to go through? His signature match. He was authorized to withdraw from that account. But the profile said for cryptocurrency, and at least 22 Bahamians were affected. So is that account manager going to jail with them? Or Royal Bank just could fire them and sweep that under the rug? But now 218 is gone. laws are being enforced, we are being internationally watched. The FATF is coming down to help the FIU. Should that person go to jail? Jason? Jason gone?
Definitely should be an investigation.
Okay, so this is where we're at, and this is why you have to understand your position, and you can't just gone at this and you could just check the signature and check the account to see if the money there. No, is it in that profile? If it's outside, then it's unusual. Are all unusual? No, you have to go and do a declaration source of funds. You have to substantiate the transaction. And if it's substantiated, then fine, you can put it through. But if it's a cryptocurrency account and I wanted some tickets to Orlando or a new Rolex watch, you have to go back to that customer and say, hey, this is not really your money. These are clients' money that I am hired to protect. But of course, you can't say that to the client because you're tipping them off, right? And so that's where you go and speak to your MLRO and say, hey, could you look into this account because I have to fill out a form. So please go to your institutions and find out how the system works and find, sorry? Okay, whoever is Galaxy J6, could you mute your mic, please? Yeah, so find out how it works because you may have to do some parts of it manually. So you should at least know that you have to do it manually, okay? A lot of us don't know. And like Nikisha brought up a good thing. She said they are, the thresholds were in place, but they were set too low, so it didn't really make sense. Right? So hello?
We're here.
Okay, good. Yeah,
somebody has their phone unmuted and it's making a lot of background noise though.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
So, okay, so I just want to ensure that you understand how to protect yourself. And in order for you to understand how to protect yourself, understand how the system works, and understand what information it gives you. And when you see that the information is so cumbersome that you have to fight through a report and fix a report over and over again, that's not an effective system. When you have 50 pages, that's not an effective system, because what the system is supposed to like compile the information, scale it down, so you should have a readable report and be able to look at it. It shouldn't take you very long to go through the report and point out the hits or persons that gone outside of their threshold and for you to check. Okay, and make sure that you have all the information on file that is required. And it all boils back down to knowing your customer. Okay, and so like I said, gone are the days, in this day and age where persons need to go to jail for international regulators to feel that we are doing what we are supposed to do. Please don't let it be us. Okay, so know when to file those transactions, those suspicious transaction reports, and protect yourself. Okay, and again, the reviews have to be done on time. And normally when you do the review and you look back at a low an account that was rated low and you're looking at it 3 years, you look through all the transactions, you do a printout of the transaction and you look through and to make sure that they stayed within their profile, or you got substantiation when it was required. Okay, and so if we had watched Dirty Money, the first series on Dirty Money was how Volkswagen had defrauded the world with their emissions test. Okay, and they were able to do that because they had a new system that nobody knew how to work. Okay, and so nobody understood the system, it was new, and nobody realized they were pretending that they had the level of emissions it was supposed to have. And that's why Volkswagen cars are very, cheap now. Before they used to be high end and very expensive. Okay, so if you watch Dirty Money, you would have seen that. The next one is with the HSBC that I'd asked everybody to watch. They hyphenated the names. So just like how it says L. Jason Davis on this, they put a hyphen in it or one of those special characters. And so even though these persons were drug lords and probably in the papers every day being arrested, they were still able to maintain these accounts because the system didn't pick it up because of the hyphen in between the name or a special character like a comma or what have you. And so that's why my job, when I became the operations manager, every month I had to print out the entire system. And I had to ensure that if we had 1,000 clients, that 1,000 clients showed up on that report. Otherwise, that meant that something was wrong with how the name is set up in the system. And so we take it for granted. Go ahead.
Ms. Bullard, I watched Ozark this week, season 3. And let me tell you how season 3 is the exact replica of the Ostrak case in the Egmont investigation. Exactly all the casino stuff, all the syndicate stuff, like everything, down to a T.
Right, and so many of these are movies now. Many of these. So if you, I guess, look in the subheading, it'll probably say based on a true story, and it'll report these cases. Okay.
Which show was that?
It's called Ozark.
Oh, Ozark, yeah.
Yes. It's pretty much money laundering and drug trafficking.
That's all that is. You're right about that.
Right. And again, it gives you awareness of how people defraud the system and the lengths that they'll go to defraud the system. Okay. And compromise the financial services sector. So like
even the part where you were telling us about how they only could they hired persons, the syndicate hired persons who could not like pay their debts and use them to gamble in the casino and like actually lose big amounts of money to like launder the money, like all of it.
Yeah, so like I said, it creates awareness. So again, I encourage all of you to watch it. It's on Netflix, and you'll be very surprised how these Fortune 500 companies, and HSBC still thrive and been around for years. But again, you don't want to get caught up because, like I said, only poor people is go to jail. So make sure none of us, we are educated and we understand what we sign up for to avoid going to jail. Okay, because it will be one of us. So understand your position, read your job description, ensure that you have the proper tools that you need to carry out your function. And if you don't, then, just send a very nice email, because I mean, we don't live in perfect, but 90% of what you need, you should have. Ensure that you are not so overworked and overwhelmed that you don't, you can't carry out your job function. Especially a lot of institutions don't like to put the metrics in place where they assign a specific account manager to a specific account. They say, oh, it's either you in the department, whoever answered the phone first or bigger distribute the work. No, you should be accountable for a specific account depending on your tenure and your level. So if you're a senior, then you should have more of the high risk, because you need to do more enhanced due diligence. If you're a junior, you should have 1 or 2 for practice. Okay, but you are required to know your clients, and the only way for you to develop patterns in these clients and to protect yourself and the institution as if you properly organize or have proper organizational structure in your company. Okay, and people take that for granted, but that's really the only way. And then there are some very complex company accounts where there are 10 layers before you get to the beneficial owners. Okay, and then they carry out transactions that don't make economic sense, like they have a specific account where all the money must channel through that account for no reason. You know, we have to be bold enough to ask, you know, relevant questions. And why would the money need to hit this account if, you know, if it's just a payable through a pass-through account? You have to find out, like, what is the reason for this? You know, and when go ahead.
Sorry, let me ask you a question, because I know you've been harping on the fact that the MLRO, because this MLRO seemed to have a lot of responsibility and she has a lot on her shoulder. So in instances where the MLRO would have kept all of her documentation and everything, and she would have submitted information and what's not, and nothing really comes out of it, but in the end, it is discovered that, hey, this person was doing this and doing that and whatever the situation is. And then she does have to answer some questions and that sort of stuff. But if it's found that she did what she had to do, she did what was required of her, would somebody else take the fall then in that institution?
Well, the institution can get fined as well. And the thing about it, it depends on the amount of clients you have. It's not a one-man band. So the most senior position in the department is normally the MLRO. But you would need an AML compliance officer, one that deals with opening up accounts, triggers, and approving transactions. Then one for regulatory compliance to deal with the regulators, the surveys, the external asset managers, and what have you. So you need even the proper metrics in that department. And then each of those compliance officers should have an assistant, you know, when they are not there on vacations and to cover and stuff for you to properly, you know what I mean, streamline. But you find that you'll have one senior person and two assistants.
Yeah, because then that was my question, if that's really happening in some of these.
It is because the salary is, and nobody.
The larger ones, I guess.
Yeah, see, compliance doesn't make any money for the business. The only thing we prevent, you know, the organization from getting fined. And so when the organization sets its budget, all the money go into sales, because they got to travel around the world to bring in business, right? And so they don't really focus. So there's a hard push for you to get staff in compliance. There's a hard push for you to say, listen, one person, if we want to do this properly and ensure this organization remains compliant, you have to have at least 3 persons and 3 senior persons, but they don't want to pay those salaries, you know. So that's the problem.
I've seen a lot of structures where there is an MLRO and there is a compliance officer, but those other persons that you describe, I rarely see that in company structures. I mean, in the larger ones, they seem to have a whole compliance team, chief compliance officer and MLRO. So I'm just thinking, is this really the case? If this is happening in a lot of these institutions? Because
yes, it is. But because the thing about it is, because it happened to me, where they sent in a job description, the regulator sent it back and said, take this and that off our job description. And then they said, well, okay, fine, but nobody else to do it. So we just need you to help us. Wow. And I ended up helping them for 2 years before I, you know, pushed and said, you'll have to hire somebody. There's a conflict of, you know, there's no proper segregation of duties. I can't be the checker. I said, I'm the checker, checking the checker, you know, and I had to keep pushing and, you know, and then they say, oh, Ms. Bullitt, you're so difficult, or this or that, the next thing. And that's what you go through. So it isn't easy, but you have to, enforce. And I had to pull out the Securities Commission policy that said, listen, it says the MLRO as the only function as compliant. You can't make me risk.
Right.
Okay. And so, that was a fight back and forth until I said, okay, well, the next time we meet with the regulators, we'll discuss it. And then they put out the job posting.
I've interacted with a lot of MLROs, but just hearing all this gives me an appreciation for what it is they do, because I didn't realize they have this much, responsibility on their shoulders. So sometimes in communicating with them, you want to step back and just try to be a little bit more understanding, because it is a lot.
Yeah, and especially in those boutique banks, like you said, the larger banks, they have the whole compliance department, they have the support, they have the parent giving support. But in those little boutique banks, the parent don't even give support. The parent don't even have policy and procedure. It's ridiculous. It's really, really bad, really bad. So yeah, a lot needs to be done. I know the regulator I've seen over the years have done a lot, but still there's a lot more to be done to support. They've got the independence under control, but as far as the work, not so much as yet.
Right.
Yeah. But I guess, again, through these seminars and associations, we have to keep speaking up and advocating, and one day we'll get there.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but you future compliance officers, don't be overwhelmed and don't feel like this is unachievable. It's being done. But again, sometimes you got to fight, and I worked at Royal Bank for 16 years, and I felt for 16 years I had to fight, but I got what I wanted, and I was happy I put up the fight, because if I didn't, then I probably would have still been there getting pushed around somewhere. But I have no regrets. So you be diplomatic in all your responses, but you have to, your job is to keep the organization compliant. And if the department is understaffed, that's a red flag, and that's just how these infiltrators take advantage of your business, because they leverage off our ignorance, and they leverage off us being overworked and underpaid and understaffed. Okay, so make sure you have your documentation, because everything is like very real now. Like I said, after these laws changed, if you don't have a lot of money, you have to fight your way up, through court to prove yourself. And it'll be very easy if you have your documentation on file. If you don't know how the system works, if you can't sit down and explain that the system has a threshold, and like Nikisha said, in the audit, they found out they were below any thresholds that would have been applicable to the client. This is a high network business where the minimum transaction going through is $100,000 and their threshold is 10,000, or vice versa. Too low or too high. That if you can't explain that, because you don't even know what systems we use, and we don't even know if the system don't work. We don't even know what the workaround is. The procedure too big, too many pages, so we don't read it. This is why we could go to jail. And we only have verbal conversation. You say, I say, no, be able to prove it. So even though 99% of those hits are void, we have to make a documentation to prove why it was void. Okay, and that's the only way we'd be able to pick up a pattern on that client. If that client doing something suspicious. If we have proper records to look back, that 3 years ago, Ms. Bullitt come up with the same story. Like somebody told me that their card was compromised. They had to make a payment today. I said, but you just told me that your card was compromised in December and you was getting new cards. So from December 3rd, now you haven't gotten a new card? Yeah. But the card was compromised again? Yeah. And I said, okay, perhaps you should pay cash then. With 800 clients, how do you remember these small details, right? So protect yourself.
Shouldn't the system and what they have in place, you should be able to make notes or, like keep records of certain information?
Yeah, you should, but we don't use it, or we don't know where in the system we're supposed to make this record, or some excuse. We don't have time for that. We take all these things for granted, right? And then, like, I think, I don't know if it was Mia or, yeah, Mia said we do all of these things post, after we would have opened the account, after the transaction would have gone through, right? So if the money already gone out the bank and it was for money laundering, how do we prove that we were not in collusion? That we didn't say, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, the police come in, or they find an SDR, hurry up, transfer this money out.
Right, you're right. If they had proper procedures in place, and you would be able to detect these things prior to.
You would, right, prior, but sometimes, like I said, the system will only let you know the next day,
right,
that Donna go and buy a Lexus, right, Donna, or BMW with people's money. The system will let you know that tomorrow that Donna went down to the auto mall and bought this BMW with the people's money now. What you could do?
I want a Range Rover.
She want a Range Rover now. And what you could do? You don't sign, use the A signatory now. You don't sign up that check. Donna don't get that license. She done driving.
I suggest you come pick me up, because that's it.
But that's just it. She coming to pick up a good banker to take the banker for a ride.
I can need lunch too, because my belly can break right down.
Okay, because you can't tip, but you can't tip Donna off, and that's the cryptocurrency people money.
Exactly.
And then somebody could take a picture with you riding around with Donna.
Well, at this point, they're already coming to shut down this whole business, because Donna doesn't care the people money, so I might as well just go joyride.
Well, you could joyride right up the Fox Hill with her. Okay, but if you could prove that, hey, this happened yesterday, her signature match, okay, we didn't check the profile, that's where we was negligent. But these are the controls that we have in place. You have to do some damage control or something.
And I mean, once you could provide an explanation, or you can show like a timeline or a trace of the account activity prior to, then that should be enough. And then I guess with other records from other clients and the way that you normally would do or follow procedures, that should be able to help you in a situation like that.
If you are right, so they probably go fine, just give you a fine. But let's think about Michelle Reckley again. Okay, $1.3 million sitting up in CIBC and Teachers Credit Union. Who accepted all this money from a government employee with making $2,000 a month? And do you think that CIBC or Teachers Credit Union sent an SDR? Or the first time they knew about that was when our production order came into the bank? That's the difference.
Yeah, I think in most cases you find like probably in her situation, somebody working in the bank was probably working with her.
Right. So I don't know about CIBC, but I can tell you that the people at Teachers Credit Union did not know until that subpoena came into the bank, until that production order came in. That shocked them.
Wow.
Oh, that's crazy.
But remember now, that's 2016. I don't know which year the credit unions were put on the central bank, just recently, perhaps 2018-ish. And so they ain't catch really up yet. Up to we've been operating for 20 plus years and we never had to do this before. They still going through the knowledge. They ain't understand, they ain't believe, and they definitely ain't acting yet.
Wow, so they could have plenty more cases.
There you go. So that would look very bad if, like I said, there was no STRs filed from any of those institutions. Even with Elmer Campbell Chase, did Royal Bank file an STR? They did know Chase Campbell was already out on bail.
Well, they should have been monitoring them with a fine teeth comb.
How if you weren't reading the newspaper? How?
But I mean, yeah, you have a point. I guess that should be something that should be a part of the policies and the procedures, especially with knowing your customer, knowing your client.
There's something called like a cause list or a court list. Do any of y'all ever heard of that?
No, what you call it, a courts list?
No.
Yeah, there's
It's
a
called
cause.
a cause list, CAUSE.
I've seen the cause list.
Yeah, the cause list. Y'all seen the cause list, right? And so on that cause list or the court list, it should tell you everybody who's been charged with like money laundering or fraud or stealing by reason of employment and what happened, or all those different things. And then I think the cause list is everybody who like has like repossessed homes and stuff like that. So those two lists normally comes into the bank I don't monthly, and you run those names through the system.
So where do you access that list or those lists? Are they online?
I've been in offshore too long, so that wouldn't be applicable to offshore, but because we didn't have Bahamian accounts. But that's specific if you in retail for Bahamian accounts. Google cause. Anybody know Cadet? You said you familiar with it?
Well, the cause list is something that you can actually request. It would show any cases that has been brought against you, or it would show any case you brought against a person. So you can request a cause list from like CompuTitle on a particular person. So you can do a cause list search, and any cases that the person has been involved in, even a divorce, would show up.
Oh, so it's not like a broad list, it's just a list, or the request is just focused on a particular person or that particular company.
A particular person, a particular company, or a particular entity, or if you like how you would do an asset search to find all the person's like real property and everything like that, you can do a cause list search on the person. So it just brings up any action that the person is involved in at all. And then if you want to see the action, you just request a copy of the or you can go down by the civil registry, British American building across from Hilton, and request a document, and you'll be able to see exactly what the case was about. You can just request certain documents.
That'd be so, I mean, that's so like if you're trying to monitor 800 clients, that, I mean, it helps, but it doesn't really help, because it's not like you have access to the full list. You have to just request for this particular client.
No.
Right. I mean, sorry.
What I used to see is an entire list. I used to see an entire list of names of persons who were being charged.
Right, so that's a different list that only certain persons are privy to. So like certain banks and stuff, they would always have access to a list of persons. But like if you want to,
but where do you get it from? Where do you get the list from?
That particular list, I believe that's actually provided. You can either get that from the FIU, you can get that from the Securities Commission. So they would have those lists, like how RBC would have a list of all of their repossessed properties. The FIU would have a list of all persons charged with money laundering or whatever issues.
Yeah, and it comes out monthly. It comes out monthly, because I remember when I was on the retail side, we used to put the names in the system to see if they were any of our clients. And I recently spoke to, I think, somebody at CIBC who was using a cause list, but I'd have to try and reach out and find out exactly where, where it comes from.
But it's not something that everybody has access to. It's actually something that you would have to request. And then everybody can't request it. obviously, like how a financial institution can request a cause list or a list of persons that have been charged with financial crimes, so that they can have that update every month, to see who's been charged with what, or if any new persons are on the list. Because a lot of persons that, may have been charged don't always take the bank and shuffle, so.
Yeah. So I guess, Nell, find out if you are in compliance, or because I'm certain the compliance can request it.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
well, we deal mainly with like foreigners, so.
Oh, right. So if you in offshore, yeah, it only Bahamians, locals were on the list. Yeah. So yeah, I can imagine the FIU would have it. Okay, great. So
Ms.
go ahead.
Bullard,
Hi.
excuse me. Wouldn't you be using a hot scan like to scan all of your clients' names and stuff like that, and the hot scan would bring up any negative news about them?
Yeah, it should world check and what have you, but in terms of locals, I'm not certain.
Oh,
I mean, like I say, I've always only used world check for in the offshore world. I've been in the offshore for the last 10 years, so I
No,
don't
but I
know.
mean, even like with the transaction monitoring, there is a hot scan that would sweep your transactions for the day. And, it would produce some kind of software that would produce a hit. Like if there is some negative news about the individuals where transactions are being conducted.
Okay, so my company uses world check to scan the names. So every night, world check scans the names. And then as for transactions, they have thresholds in the system. So over a certain amount, we would get a hit.
Okay, so I think it's pretty much the same thing that I'm talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Who's speaking?
This is Kelia.
Kelia. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, so there should be one for the names, and then should be one for the transactions. And if it's not specific to each client, then you may need to do something manually. And again, that's what I'm saying, go out and find out and ensure that you have sufficient support coming from the system in a report or some form of hit to advise you of, what investigations need to be carried out. And then ensure that if you carry out an investigation, you attach source document and place it on the file, or have it create a file for, to see if the client is developing a pattern. Okay.
Right.
Okay, so are we clear on the STR? We see the form, we understand how to fill it out. We see that there's an essay involved. We understand the MLRO and the regulated function. And we understand that anything unusual is once it is outside of your profile that you would have generated when you would have opened the account.
Excuse me, I joined late, so I just wanted to know if I could get a copy of the form.
It's online. Just Google Bahamas STR form. And it should come up. Did you see how it looked?
No, because I joined late. I sent a message to say that I was going to be late because I worked late today.
Oh, okay, yeah. So we decided to, that's why we normally start with the newspaper clippings and stuff, but we decided to start with the lecture, and then we'll do the newspaper clippings at the end. But everything is being recorded, so you could just listen to the recording for any parts that you would have missed. But this is the form, and you can just Google FIU suspicious transaction report and just put in Bahamas, and this should come up.
I put the link in the group as well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, great. So any other questions?
No.
No? Clear as mud?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so today I would have sent out the review sheet because persons had asked for it early. What I want to do is assign how many of us? 19 of us. do you want, I guess we can assign persons to answer.
I didn't get any review sheet.
If you didn't get it, that means I don't know you. That means you've been in this class for the last 8 weeks and Miss Bullet don't know you.
Miss Bullet, you don't know me.
Renelle, you did get it. Check your email.
I didn't get it. I'm looking at my email now for real.
I have to check my email because I don't recall getting it either.
Celia, you got that.
I got it. Okay.
It came before the link that Mr. Pratt sent, so probably check under. If you're checking past that, it'll be too late. So it was sent around 2:51.
No, I didn't get that.
No? Okay. Anybody else didn't get it?
I didn't get it.
Yeah, I only got the link from 2. I didn't get anything else. I don't see anything.
Let me see if I could. Let me see. Do I have that up? Because Shandika and Renelle, I have you all on my list. Let me see. So everybody else, that means I know everybody in this class, because I didn't feel like I did.
Yes, I got it.
Who is that? Who's saying yes, they have it?
Sierra.
Sierra has it, yeah.
Feel like a stepchild.
I got it. I got it, Miss Bullet.
Who is this saying I got it? Because I looking in my, you all know Miss Bullet ain't savvy,
got
man.
Got that. Say she got it.
Okay.
Well, Lisa got hers.
I have it too.
Okay, let me see.
Well, I'm like you, Miss Bullet. I'll have to check when I get off.
Okay.
And I need that because I still lost. I need that because I still lost. I need to know what's coming up.
Yeah, me too. I ain't gonna lie.
Okay, let's see then. Renelle and Shanika. That's the only two? Just those two didn't get it? Okay, I sent it to the only 2 persons who said they didn't get it.
I said I'll have to check when I come off, but I didn't see it before I came on this call.
Okay, that's Kelia, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so take a look at it, and next week we will write down.
Okay, I got it now.
Okay, good. So persons who we have, since we have 19 persons, and this is for the class for the 29th, so you still have a few weeks to look at it. And so we will assign next week. You could come and let me know which question you want to answer in the review class on the 29th. So we have 2 classes left. Okay, next week we'll cover cooperation after we would have signed or sent in these STRs. How do we cooperate with the authorities, ensuring that we only give them information that is required and nothing extra? Okay, so we'll talk about that and some cases next week.
Well, then I gotta try answer all these questions.
Yes, please do answer all the questions. So definitely, if you did question 1 for homework, you have already covered that. And whatever question that you've done for homework, you've considered that covered, because most of you would have gotten your grades back. And then I think there's just 1 question left. So if you haven't done your homework by now, keep it in any event. You do it before the final. Keep it as, one of the questions that you are going to answer on the final. We know that it's 1 mandatory question and 4 essays, and then about 15 multiple choice. Okay, and it'll be, again, everything that we would have covered already.
Miss Bullet, how long you expect these essays to be in this exam?
No, again, it's 10 points, so no more than like 200 words, 200 to 300 words. 1 pages. Okay. Yeah, 1 pages, but 1 page of meat, not fluff, and not copy and paste. That's the difference. Okay, so some of you in your homeworks, mind your copy and paste. Okay, I've seen some homeworks, I feel like I read an entire book or some other papers that I've seen already. So please try your best to interpret it in your own words, but don't go too fast out and make sure that you understand. Okay? Okay, so now let's talk about the newspaper clippings, and let's talk about anybody who's going to get their 5% today.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Afternoon.
Hope everybody had a good week.
We did. Hope you had a good week as well.
It was fine, thanks. I have no complaints. I could use another holiday, but can't we all?
I know, right?
Yeah. What I gathered from the paper clippings was there was this life key broker that was brought before the courts regarding a deal that went south in Ecuador. And so far his firm has released ties with him, which I notice occurs a lot. And so this is something that was appreciated. Yes, people behind the gates do get bring before the courts. Not just because you have your office in executive suite and life key, that doesn't mean that you won't be penalized.
It's about time.
Hard things are coming to light.
Let's wait till the end of the case.
Yeah.
And
yes.
possibly there was a whistleblower, because I find that rather strange, because, you know, they're going to use those things to juicy up the headline. Ex-gun bearer executive pleads guilty in New York, sought to corrupt Ecuador oil company officials. Commission eyes probe as local loophole closes. So my thing is, for some, you know, they're going to try to make it as juicy as possible, but the story does upbeat, and I can share the link in the group.
Okay, great, very good. Symphony, and did you see Guy Gentile? Is that how you pronounce it? He is
Ben Broker. He was also brought before. His case was also closed by the Securities Commission. They said they have no further insight into his case.
Yeah, I think they took him. He took them to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, and they told him that.
Yeah, and the Supreme Court has upheld their conviction. Okay, yeah, very good.
Miss Bullitt, I don't think that the Supreme Court is going to go against the Securities Commission.
Yeah,
that's not going to make the country look good.
Right, and so, but I don't understand what these persons are thinking, because he is like the third person where the regulator has either used moral suasion and said leave, or has, you know, shut them down, and they don't believe that the regulator had the right, and they've gone to the Supreme Court. And this is like the third case where I saw that the Supreme Court say, well, yes, they actually do have the right, and they upheld the regulators.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna go, because it doesn't look good in the company. And if they did that, then fact and all them other persons will blacklist us tomorrow.
Correct.
So I really don't. And then my thing is too, when you came into the country, wasn't it the regulator that gave you the job, that gave you the license?
Correct.
So just they can give it, they can take it away.
Correct, and it goes back to that same fit and proper guideline that they have out that gives them the power to say, hey, if you are no longer fit and proper for the position, we can request that you be removed.
So it could just be a matter of emotion, you understand? And they could be like, we're not on your run. I'm not saying that that's what they do, but I'm saying that at the same time, because they are the persons that put you in place, whatever feeling, whatever wind passed by their door, they could shut you down too, whether you're making millions of dollars or a dollar. Now, mind you, they're going to have reasoning from what I'm understanding, but at the same time, who are you to argue against the regulator? Where are you going?
Well, I mean, you could argue if you have your policies and procedures in place and you following their guidelines.
I guess so. That's now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you can do that. But the thing about it is, I think if you're going to take it as far as the Supreme Court, I don't think you're going to stand a chance.
Well, I feel like if you have all your ducks in a row, you dot your I's and you cross your T's, then they probably shouldn't be, they wouldn't have no reason to come after you. So for you,
that's true.
Being in that position and they coming after you, clearly you've been doing some things that are beyond suspicious, and you know you're in the wrong, but you feel like money talks, so I can try and fight this with my money.
That's true. You have a point. You have a serious point.
Yep. Okay, great. Very good, girls. Good keeping abreast of what's going on.
I also would like to share.
Go ahead.
On the vaccination, I know last class, I think you and Jason were discussing before our class started how some persons were experiencing blood clot and all those other things, et cetera. And yesterday, I see some clippings about different companies such as Latitudes and Sushi Rokan actually telling their employees that they have to now take the vaccination or else. I think Sushi Rokan is threatening that you'll be fired if you don't take it. And then of course Latitudes and Titans, which is Swimming Pigs and all those other places, are saying that if you don't, you'll have to pay for rapid testing weekly, which is about $56 a week. And now I'm reading on the Nassau Guardian that they actually have a travel ban on Haiti due to the fact that they don't have a vaccination program. And I'm just thinking to myself, this is just it's not even curing the disease. It's basically just us being test dummies. I don't know if you guys feel the same way.
I agree.
Like it's not even something that can be proven to say, okay, we're not gonna have the COVID-19 no more, like it's ended. And plus, this is just the first vaccination. Don't you have to take like 2 or 3 shots after this to say you're good?
Yeah. I just recently heard that they're stopping the vaccination due to all of the side effects and the causes that are happening to people. Apparently, there's a 28-year-old young lady who took it, and a few days later, she has no movement in her body at all.
That's the Johnson & Johnson is stopping. It's halting their thing.
Right. I don't know if that's why. I don't know if that's why they're slowing down on issuing the what is that AstraZeneca that we're using here. I think it's that they only have a certain amount, and so persons have already gotten the first shot, and there are now persons who would be ready to get the second shot, and they're not sure if they're going to be able to supply persons who will be getting the first shot as well as those who get the second shot, because without the second shot, it's not going to be effective. So apparently they're pulling back on that until they get some new medicine in.
And my thing is, why are you making it mandatory over something that isn't, like you said, we're not sure if we're gonna have enough for everybody. I know that my job just sent an email about 2 days ago saying that they're now offering it to persons working in banking institutions and trust companies.
Yeah, frontline persons mostly.
Yeah.
But why push something that isn't even proven? And furthermore, anyway.
That's my point.
Right.
That's my point.
John Tinder from the Department of Labor came on the news last night, and he said no company can make it mandatory. And he has he said he's gotten an influx of complaints, and he will start to deal with those companies individually. But no company can threaten that you must pay for a test or that you must take a shot. He just said that last night. So they're gonna deal with it.
They can take it board meeting. Freedom of right.
Yeah. Okay, so good.
I think he said something like he doesn't agree with the whole making it mandatory thing, but I think he said something like, but you can't, he agrees with the whole testing thing, like you could pay for your own test. That's what I read on Eyewitness.
Okay, I guess I just saw the clip where he said no company can make it mandatory. He's got a lot, and nobody can tell you have to pay for a test to keep your job.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so you can follow it to see exactly what happens.
I read that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also a report in the newspaper. Someone had mentioned it, but yes, they are confirming that they'll stop the rollout on Friday. And I think I agree. Maybe Danielle said it, but there were reports in the US about blood clots and all of that. So I don't understand why the Bahamian government, I mean, in this report, it said that they were a gift from India, but coming up with all those results in the United States, I don't understand why the Bahamian government allowed people to start taking the vaccine in the first place. But
my question too, right? They saying that these came from India, but didn't India stop issuing the vaccine?
I don't know. I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Give it to us so that we can have it now. Anymore.
But I think too, I don't think people realize that the persons that are being reported is like 6 and 7 persons out of millions though. So
yeah. So I mean, any medicine any medicine you take is gonna have side effects. And so, you know, you might have, like she said, 6 or 7 out of millions.
Yeah, but that's just like the government saying we in a third wave. We haven't even hit a first wave as yet because our numbers are really low compared to many other countries around the world.
Yeah, but per capita though, we only have 400,000 people. So I mean, that's still, we still have, you know, a lot of people compared to where we
But
were
we have
at 111 that jumped to, we almost 10,000 now, eh?
Claim that most of those persons died, quote unquote, died from COVID or whatever, but well, some of those cases were proven that they were not even COVID related. So they're stressing or pushing an agenda with hidden agenda behind it.
Exactly.
I think it's all about
Here's
the
me.
economic recovery, and we are a tourism nation. 90% are not 90, but what should I say, 70, 80% come from tourism. You know, they about to let this cruise ship sail from Nassau for the first time in July, and so everybody on that cruise has to be vaccinated. So I think for the tourism aspect and to get the economy jumping again, that's what they looking more at. Of course, the IGLA is looking at the economic benefit from everybody being vaccinated. So the straw market get open and, you know, what have you. I think it's from that aspect.
But then I was listening to something today, and where did that volcano erupt?
St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Right. So you know they have like a cruise ship, you know, taking people or evacuating people from the island or from the country. But apparently the persons who've not been vaccinated aren't allowed on the cruise ship.
Oh wow.
And that's the same thing with Haiti, as I was
Yeah.
saying. They have a travel ban.
But that's, oh, sorry.
You go ahead.
Oh no, I just was letting Richetta know that was being authorized by the government and not the cruise ship. So the government of St. Vincent was saying that if you're not vaccinated, you can't board the cruise ship. So they're just going with what the government says. That wasn't implemented by them. Yeah.
Right. I didn't know who implemented it, but I know that it was something that was happening. Wow.
How much cases of blood clot did we have here in this country out of all the people that took the vaccines so far?
Just a few.
We had some here. I didn't have a report that we had it here.
Yeah, like I
No,
said,
I thought it was in
I
America.
heard about a young lady, but
they just
I heard about one. I only
One
heard
person,
about
oh, in the Bahamas. Okay. I thought all the cases were in America. I know there are like 34 in total, but I thought it was around the world, not in the Bahamas.
So I mean,
sure
out of
we-
thousands
the
and
clots
one.
came from the vaccine.
Yeah, we're not
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, you remember one doctor came on who was from Freeport, who said he took it and he got a blood clot, but he's a doctor and he knew what to do to
him and his wife.
Him and his wife, yeah. But they survived. So
But that's because they knew what to do, or
To
he
do.
knew what to do to save him and his wife. But what about persons who don't know what to do?
Is he telling the truth?
But I mean, nothing is 100%.
Yeah.
You know, every medicine that you take, read the side effects.
Well, I stopped taking medicine and pills and stuff a long time ago.
Well,
I try to do everything natural.
So Denmark has pulled AstraZeneca altogether.
Yeah, a few of the European countries have it.
Germany as well, I think. But then they're more wealthy countries. I mean, like they might feel like, well, you know, what they think. I don't know.
Right. Okay, so good work, guys. It seems like you're keeping abreast, and perhaps I'll have one of these conversations. I'll throw one of these newspaper clippings in on the final exam to see if we actually paying attention and reading.
Oh, don't do that.
Don't do that, Miss Bullet, because I done can.
Please don't do that.
Miss Bullet, Miss Bullet.
You have a
that gonna be the-
choice. You don't have
Miss
to
Bullet.
answer it. You'll have a choice
Miss
of
Bullet,
10. You'll have a choice of 10.
I have a
That gonna be
suggestion, Ms.
that gonna
Bullet.
be that gonna be the 1 week nobody read nothing.
I have a suggestion, Ms. Bullet.
Go ahead.
Do it as a bonus question.
Right, that's what I say. You have a choice of 10. Out of 10 choices, you need that.
Jason Davis, come on, man, calm down.
Bonus,
No.
bonus. It won't affect your overall grade only if you do,
what I'm saying is,
they're gonna affect me because I'm struggling right now.
No. You have a choice of 10 questions and you pick 4.
No, not like that, Ms. Bullard. A bonus question means it's not part of the regular test. It's just a bonus.
Extra bonus. This
Yeah.
your 5% now that you getting tonight, or who else emailed me and said it's your bonus right now? Who else emailed me and said they attended something? Somebody.
It was me, Ms. Bullard.
Ms. Bullard, me. I have
Okay, so we can hear from Kelia, Aubrey, and then Erica.
Can I go first? Because I actually have work.
Me too, Miss Bullet, but I didn't email you, but me too.
Okay, go ahead. Who wants to go first? They gotta leave.
Me.
Go ahead, Aubrey.
Okay, I went to a COP talk. The topic was financial crime awareness. And they basically spoke about what they did as a unit. Sergeant Turnquest was the speaker. And they basically discussed the current frauds in their department, what they have been seeing. Sorry, that's the background. Sorry for my background noise. The trends range from online love scams, Samsung winnings, scar scams, and fake marriages. They also spoke about the successful conviction rates they had. They also gave an example of a most recent one. I think it was a Ministry of Finance employee who basically got convicted on a charge of stealing over $200,000. And they just spoke about that and saying that how they would want the public to be more vigilant and not to be ignorant that these crimes do exist. And if they feel like they are experiencing one of these scams, that they can always reach out to them so that they can better be advised.
Okay, so Aubrey, were they talking about the pastor that was at the Ministry of Financial Services?
Yeah, I think that's him.
They need to be more vigilant because he was fired for stealing from two banks before the Ministry of Finance hired him.
Well, I guess they just was trying to.
Y'all talking about a man of God?
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's not my anointed. I'm sorry, but he was on bail twice for stealing from banks.
Well, I guess they were proud of that conviction. So they just
how did he pass that background check? How?
Background check.
Okay, but that's what has happened today. If I know I steal, I hired another, because you need a second signatory, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's a scam. That's what they really should be talking about, that whoever was already the thief and they hired the thief so they could have a second signatory. And that's how they was able to defraud the Ministry of Finance. But anyway, very good, Aubrey. Very good.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Go ahead. Who else was there? Avery?
Yes, I went to the Rotaract Club of East Nassau, their meeting, one of their monthly meetings, and their topic was antenatal, the importance of antenatal care during COVID, because their month of April is maternal and child health month. So it's not related to anything compliance, but they spoke about caring for your unborn baby during COVID, and they gave recommendations how to care for yourself at home, because they said a lot of pregnant women stopped coming out to their doctor's visits in fear of contracting the virus. And so what they did was they created a hotline where patients could call in and actually have Zoom meetings with doctors, which I thought was pretty cool. So because you don't want to go in and in fear of contracting the virus, you could have a call with your doctor. But they also gave recommendations on how to take care of yourself at home, like cutting down on your number of visits and following protocols when you attend the clinics, and ensuring you're taking your medication and all of that. So the only thing that I was disappointed to hear was that there's not still allowing family members or people, like if you're going to go in when you're going to have the baby, they're not allowing visitors like the father of the baby or anything. I mean, I think she said, this is being presented by Dr. Regina Ferguson. She said that they may have to take a COVID test, but I don't think that it's really being pushed to do that. I think they're still allowing people to stay home. I mean, encouraging people to stay home. So that was basically the gist of her presentation. It was short, but it was very informative.
Okay, great. And do you plan to attend again?
Oh yes, yes. Actually, I need to become a member. So
Okay.
technically right now I'll be a prospective, but I have to do other things to become a member, but I'm trying to get more involved.
Okay, excellent. Very good. Very good. Okay, Erica?
Yes. Okay, I attended a Toastmasters Zoom meeting last week as well. It is not related to compliance either, but I thought the topics were very informative. The theme was Spring Fort. We were encouraged to spring forth with excitement from angles from our top of our head to the bottom of our feet, which meant that we were encouraged that there was still hope after the challenges that we would have faced last year and even this year. And then a picture was shown whereby we was able to describe what was happening in the picture. It was a picture of ladies that appeared to be excited and jovial. And then there was a spring forward word of the day, ecstatic, which meant feeling or expressing overwhelming happiness or joyful excitement. And then we had to also use this word in a sentence. And then just for the space of time, I will just go over one of the topics that the speaker discussed. And her name was Ruth Ferguson. I found her to be very humorous, and her topic was spring into exercise. So she started off with us with a demonstration where we had to lift our left leg, lift our right leg. Then we had to lift both legs and count to 30. And then she talked about our heart rate. She said when you exercise, your heart rate begins to increase and moves oxygen to the muscles. And then she also talked about, let me just get my notes together. And then she talked about the regular physical exercise boosts energy. She said regular physical activity can improve your muscle strength and boost your endurance. Exercise delivers oxygen and nutrients to your tissues and helps your cardiovascular system work more efficiently. And when your heart and lung health improves, you have more energy to tackle daily chores. And then she also encouraged us with some tips where we get 8 to 10 hours per night rest and eat nutritional meals, drink a lot of water, read a good book. And then she also talked about the normal reading, like your blood pressure. And what else did she speak about? And your body mass. And she also talked about overexertion. And like I said, for the space of time, I will just stop right there to give somebody else a chance.
Okay. All right, Erica, thank you for sharing. So are you ready now to join Toastmasters? Because this is the second time you're telling me that you went and you had a good time. It was very informative. Are you ready now to participate in one of these?
Yes, I think I am ready. Like I said, I found both meetings to be very informative. So I think I'm ready.
Okay, good. Excellent. Excellent. We're glad you ventured out there and gave it a try and found it beneficial. So very good.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, Kelia.
Okay, during last month, I think I had prepared this for the International Women's Month. because my organization put on a series of talks about featuring the leading women in the bank. And one of the topics was stronger together. And pretty much, well, two of the senior managers presented on this topic. And what they were really talking about is women supporting each other in the workplace, as I think most of us have heard before that women often fight against each other instead of pulling together. And we like to highlight each other's differences instead of joining together and becoming stronger, with our differences. It spoke about what advice you would give to your 20-year-old self if you look back, and to one of the things was life is not a battle, and you are the master of your own destiny. There is no blueprint over how you can plan to be successful or master your life, master your career, sorry. You have the ability to overcome obstacles and always find a mentor and a mentee within your organization. At least try to bring at least two people up behind you. I mean, really, really mentor them, and share your knowledge and have an open door policy, going above and beyond to help others advance in their career. So I guess that's a part of the mentorship. And what else? They were talking about how women feel sometimes that, they're not in a position to speak up as much as their male counterparts, but, silence is not an option, especially in today's professional environment. And enthusiasm in your job should be evident. Like, people shouldn't have to ask you if you enjoy doing what you're doing. It should automatically come across in a positive way. And gender does not define your capability in any institution, particularly or specifically in the financial services industry. And not being afraid to ask for equal pay for equal work. And just not be afraid of criticism and victimization. That pretty much was the gist of the.
Okay, great. Thank you, ladies. Thank you all for sharing. Okay. I really want you to take some time and complete the question for chapter 8, because a lot of persons, in their minds, they say, oh yes, fine, I'm going to answer the question on STRs, but for some reason they are unable to relay it properly to get full points. So take some time and the remainder of the time and try and answer the question and ensure that you have, sufficient detail and can properly explain the unusual transaction, the triggers, and then filing the STR. Okay, just to ensure that if you are going to select that question to answer on the exam, you would have practiced it already, because a lot of persons selected, but for some reason they can't relay it properly in an essay. So I encourage you to take this opportunity to practice. Okay?
Well,
yes.
Let me get this 10 points as I remember.
It's 10A. Okay, go ahead.
I think I should have the 5 already, but anyway.
Okay, so would you get 10 points for, you mean for your participation?
What the 10 points for anyway?
Yeah, for participation, and you would have been participating the entire
so
for the most part.
The 5 points would go into the meeting thing.
Yeah, for attending the civic organization was the 5 points. And the 10 points is participation throughout the course. Now, some of you, like I said, who I don't know, there's only 2 points left. So I would suggest that you at least get 2 points going into the exam, because you don't have your 5% and you don't have the remainder for participation. So there's only 2 points left. So I suggest that you at least get 2 points going into the exam. Okay, because I haven't even received some homework. So like I said, we're to the end and there are at least 5 people I don't even know at this point. So.
Miss Buller, you know me, right? I straight.
Yeah, Donna, I know. I know.
No, no, we used to stop trying tonight.
Yeah, Nell and Shandika. Yeah, sorry. But Nell, you know your name was on top. When I sent that email, you were one of the first persons I selected. I don't know what happened.
I know, Miss Bullet. I know.
I know. You okay. You okay.
Well, Ms. Bullet, since I get the 10, let me give you the 5.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I attended a couple meetings, so I can make this quick. I also attended a Toastmasters. I'm not a real big fan of Toastmasters, even though I am a Toastmaster, a delinquent one at that. But I did attend one. I got in there very late. Well, not too late, but I caught them when they were at table topics. Um, it was a provocative table topics theme. I can't tell you all everything that happened there. There was a long session. It took about 30, almost half an hour. But the theme of table topics was challenges create champions. Um, next was the lexicologist, Spurgeon, and the word of the day was tenacity. And then the first prepared speaker was Erin Brown, who's, I think she's blind. And she spoke about the challenges of disability, especially on the job. And she combined the theme of challenges creates champions in her presentation. And she also talked about motivation and love of her special needs and how she's been a spokesperson at her job on encouraging them to be more friendlier to people with disabilities. And then after her speech was the guest speaker of the day, which was Abby Monroe. Matter of fact, I think I have this mixed up now. Erin Brown.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Erin Brown was
the special guest. Abby Monroe is the blind person. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah, so Abby would have spoke about her disabilities on the job. And Erin Brown is also, I think, disabled, and she also spoke about disability. And that was, I didn't get to introduce myself as I missed that portion of it. But like I told you, I'm not really interested in Toastmasters per se. I also attended Rotary, and I think you know that I'm interested in Rotary. And the theme of Rotary was health. And the guest speaker for the day was Georgette Rule. Georgette Rule is a golfer by profession. And she has influenced women in sports in the Bahamas over the years. And her presentation was basically help with keeping the nutritional needs of the body. And like the others, this has nothing to do with finance or compliance, but she also talked about, golfing and keeping how golf encourages strength conditioning. It helps prepare your mind, healthy thinking, helps you make better life decisions, financial decisions. She's also started programs for young kids who want a career in golf, and she also started an initiative and introduced golf into schools to the Ministry of Education. And she also coaches both men and women in playing golf. Like I said, the theme of the day was health. And also Adrienne White is the outgoing president. And my area, I can't remember her last name, She'll be the incoming president, and she also spoke about their volunteer efforts in the Foxhole area. And what they're going to be doing is just planting trees and doing cleanup for the remainder of this month. So that's my presentation. Short and quick.
Great, great, Jason. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so if there are no more questions or concerns, please take the time and like I said, ensure that you could relay if you're going to select this question. Ensure it's one of the easier ones. Ensure that you could document it properly and get full points on your essay. So make sure
Which
that you have
question is
10
that,
points. Sorry?
Which question is that again? Sorry, I didn't.
On
hear what you
STRs,
said.
SDR.
chapter 8 on suspicious transaction report.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So is
Ms.
it too late
Bullard,
to
you could
submit any other homework question that you might have? Is it too late to submit that?
This is the last one. Eh?
I mean, not for a score, just for guidance. Hello?
Sorry, it been on mute. Sure, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, any more questions or concerns?
Ms. Bullard, you could just let me know if I'm missing any points next class. I know what to do to get my points because I can need all my points, please.
Okay. Okay, you attended us because I don't have my book with me. You attended any civic organization, got it?
Yeah, I attended Toastmasters
Okay,
a couple of weeks ago.
yeah, and I'm familiar, and you wasn't an intro, and I'm familiar with you. So yeah, you have your full 10 points and your 5%.
So you can only get the 5 points if you attended a civic organization?
Or like you attended that meeting, so that was fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Because as compliance officers, we have to attend seminars and workshops and industry briefings and what have you. And so I normally say, because I want you to network, and I know like a lot of the industry briefings and seminars are online now. You normally dress up and go to the hotels. So that's why I encourage the civic organization, so you can, come together with like-minded people and, try and network. Get your name out there.
I also attended the same Toastmasters meeting that Jason invited everybody in the group to.
Okay.
But I didn't speak on it because I thought he would. So
okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, that's great. And thank you, Jason, for the invite. And Astronique, the one that you attended, was that publicized? Like, how did you find out about that? Is she still there or did she leave? No, okay, she left already.
Yeah,
Okay.
she left. She had work.
Right. Okay, so I'll find out from her next week how she, because I didn't see that anywhere online, but I would have found that interesting. So okay, so very good. Very pleased with the responses and the newspaper clippings and staying abreast. And again, like I said, as compliance, the CEO, every morning he comes and he said, so what's happening in the news? And, primarily we do talk about the business section, but we want to talk about the country as well and what's happening, just in life. And so sometimes we do talk about health and we do talk about backyard farming and we do talk about definitely COVID. He wants a COVID update every day. So very good that, you don't say that, okay, this has nothing to do with financial services sector. No, you have to be well-rounded. It's not a requirement, but, it's good to just stay abreast of what's happening in the economy as a whole. So very good. And I'm very pleased that we could have the proper water cooler conversations that we should be having at work. Okay.
Before we leave, Rotary, I intended to attend the Rotary Club of Old Port last night, but it was canceled and postponed until next week. But they are having a blood drive this Saturday. If you check their Facebook page and if you're interested, the annual blood drive is this Saturday afternoon. So that's the Rotary Club of Old Fort for anybody who can donate blood.
Oh, what time is it?
The Facebook page will provide the update.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nikisha, for sharing. Thank you. Okay, so if there are no more concerns or comments, then we'll have a blessed week and productive week, get some rest, and so you can, be receptive to all of this and then relay it properly and then get back into studying. So I hope everybody has a good and productive week and see you again next week, same time, same place.
Thank you.
All right.
Good
Have a
night.
good night.
Thank you.
Have a
Ms.
good evening.
You too.
Okay, and
Bye.
remember, come next week with the topic that you're gonna discuss in the review. Okay, so take some time to look at
We
it.
have to choose it or something.
Choose it, and then if you don't choose it, I'll just assign it to you.
Okay.
Okay, but I give you the opportunity to choose a topic.
You know, you can't give me too much mileage.
I know.
Who was asking about the blood drive?
Jason.
It was Jason.
Oh, 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock.
Oh, okay, thank you.
10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Mall of Marathon.
Nice, thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, good night.
Right across the street.
Bye, Ms. Fuller. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.